Hi, I'm Wanda from Alanda Craft, and today I'm going to show you how to make these quick and easy Christmas table runners. Now, I've used fake quarters for mine, but you can use the beautiful Christmas fabrics that you've probably got on hand. Now, this is really quick. There's no binding involved. It's simply the turn through method. And so let's get on and show you how to do this. So here's what you need. Now, I've got 9 strips of fabric, and I've bought some of those lovely Christmas fat quarters because they're just gorgeous. And fat quarters work really well for this, although you can use your fabric from your stash if you wish. There's no problem with that. But my strips measure 5 inches in width and 22 inches in length. So you want your fat quarters to measure about 22 inches. You can come down a little bit because sometimes they don't measure the full 22 inches, but that's fine, but not too short. Because we're going to do this on the diagonal, and you need to have extra fabric. Now you're also going to need some batting. Now I've cut my batting piece here at 17 inches by 40, and I've also got some batting. Now I'm not going to cut the batting just yet because I'm going to wait to see what my finished size is when I finish putting this all together, and then I'll use the piece on the top as a template to cut my backing. So let's get on and get started with this. So what I did is I laid all my strips out in the order that I wanted them, and then I've put them together in a pile, and I've made sure that I have the strip that I'm going to be using in the middle on the top. So now I take my piece of batting and I fold it in half, and I just finger press down the centre. I just want a centre crease, nothing too dramatic. Now when I open it up and I take my first piece of fabric, I'm going to lay it across. Now I'm going to do this on an angle. You don't have to do that. You can make it a sharper angle if you wish, or you could just have it straight across, but I'm just going to do a gentle angle, and I may need to make sure that my fabric goes right across my batting, and that piece is sitting there nicely. Now when I get my next piece, I'm going to lay it right sides together, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to sew these together with a 1/4 inch seam. But before I do that, I need to check that this piece of fabric is going to cover the batting before I go sewing anything. So I just fold it back, and you can see here it's not going to come right across the batting. So what I need to do is adjust the strip so that it goes right across. So I'll just move it down until it does. Okay, there we go, we've got plenty of fabric on either side. So now I can just fold this back and sew them together with a 1/4 inch seam. And it doesn't matter that you've got this overhang here because we're going to be trimming that. So I've sewn those 2 pieces together, and what I did is I pressed this on the wrong side to start with, just along the seam line, and then I folded it over and pressed it to get that nice crisp look. So now what I'm going to do is take my next piece of fabric and just lay it so that you can see where it's going to end, and then fold it back, line it up, and sew that with a 1/4 inch seam. And I'm going to do exactly the same thing again, press it, open it, and I'll come back and add the rest of my pieces down this end. Okay, so as you can see, I've added all the strips all the way down one side, and in this corner here I have a little piece that's jutting out. Now I can do one of 2 things. I can either trim this off when I'm trimming this piece up, or I can do what I've done with the one on the wall here. I can add another piece of fabric in, and you'll have plenty of offcuts from your fat quarters. So now we need to do the other end, so I'll just take my fabric, and again, working from the centre piece up, lay it down, sew with a 1/4 inch seam, and press it back. And always remember to make sure that it's going to cover all of your batting. So I've sewn all my pieces onto my piece of batting now, and now it's time to trim. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to flip this over onto the reverse, and I'm just going to take my ruler and slice along the edge of the batting. So I'll do that here, and I'm going to do that all the way around. So I'm going to trim all these side pieces, as you can see here, and I'm going to trim them back to the batting. So I've trimmed all the way around my table runner now, and you remember we had this little piece here, and I decided I was going to trim my piece back so that rather than fill that piece in, but you can fill it in if you wish. Okay, so I'm just going to line my ruler up along the edge, and I have a nice straight edge now that I've trimmed it up, and we'll just cut that across. Now, just as a final check to make sure that your piece is straight, what I do is I tend to fold my piece in half, okay, and so I match the top edges, the top short edges, and then match down one side. Now you can see here that my piece is out. So what I'll do is I'll trim that. Now I can see on the mat here that it should be 17 inches, but it comes back to about 16 3/4. So what I'll do is I'll cut the whole thing at 16 3/4. So what you need to do now is measure your piece once you've trimmed it. So mine has come down to 39 inches by 16 3/4. So that's what I've cut my backing piece at. So I now take my backing piece and I'm going to lay it right sides down, so right sides together with my main piece, and just lay it so that it all matches up nicely around the edges. Now what we're going to do is we're going to sew with a 1/4 inch seam all the way around our runner. But what we need to do is leave an opening so that we can turn it through. So look for a piece on your runner that doesn't have a seam line. So I'm going to make my opening here. So I'm going to leave about 5 inches. So just lay that back down. So I'll start off with a back stitch and then I'll sew all the way around, and I'll come to where I want to finish my leaving the opening, and I'll back stitch there as well. Okay, so now I have sewn all the way around my table runner with a 1/4 inch seam, and I've clipped my corners, as you can see here. I've clipped across the corner to start with, and then I've just taken some of the excess bulk from each side. So I've left my opening of 5 inches, and now it's time to turn our table runner through. So I'll just put my hand down and drag it through. And by leaving that 5 inch opening, it just comes through nice and quick and easy. So let's keep turning. And you'll just want to push your points out. You can use your scissors, but be very careful not to go through your material or through your stitching, or you can use a skewer, whatever. And once we've got all our corners pushed out neatly, we'll give it a good press, and we'll press in that piece that opens so that we can do a nice top stitch all the way around. I'll show you that in a second. Okay, so there we are. Right, so now what I'll need to do is go and give that a good press, and press in this opening here so that it sits nice and flat, so that I can top stitch all the way around. So there you are. I've sewn all around the edge with 1/8 of an inch to top stitch it, and I've caught in the opening, so that's all closed off nicely. And what I'm just going to do to finish this off is to sew a 1/4 of an inch on either side of each of these seams, and you can see that that's what I've done here. I've actually sewn a 1/4 of an inch on each side of the seam. So that'll just finish that off nicely, and it won't drag it in too much. If you do too much quilting, you're going to find that it'll start to pull your table runner in a bit. Okay, so if you've enjoyed this tutorial, give us a thumbs up and subscribe to our channel, and don't forget to follow us on Pinterest and Facebook.